You are listening to a podcast right now, and I want to ask you something honest. Are you learning English, or are you just listening? Because those two things are not the same thing. I know people who have listened to English podcasts for 2 years, 2 full years, and their English is almost exactly the same as before. Same level, same problems, same frustration. I also know people who listened for 3 months, and they started having real conversations. They started feeling comfortable. They started speaking. What was the difference? Today I am going to tell you exactly what it was. And at the end of this episode, I will tell you the one small thing that my student Mia did. One tiny change, and her English went from 0 progress to real conversations in 3 months. But first, I need to tell you something that most English teachers will not tell you. Listening to podcasts can be a waste of time. Yes, a waste of time, not because podcasts are bad, podcasts are wonderful, but the way most people listen. It does not build language. It feels productive, but it is not. And today we are going to fix that. Let me tell you about Mia. Mia loved English. She was serious about it. She worked hard, every morning. She listened to podcasts while making breakfast, on the bus to work, podcasts, at the gym, podcasts. She was listening to English for about 1 hour every single day, for 8 months. And then she came to me, and she said, "Ellen, I still cannot speak. I still cannot understand fast English. What is wrong with me?" And I asked her one question. "What do you do when you listen?" She said, "I put in my earphones, and I listen, while I do other things." And that was the problem. Mia was listening, but she was not learning. What is the difference? When you listen while doing other things, cooking, walking, exercising, your brain is divided. It is managing 2 things at the same time. The English becomes background noise, familiar noise, but not language that your brain is building. Think about this. Imagine you are watching a movie, but at the same time someone is asking you questions about something completely different. Can you follow the movie? Probably not. Your brain cannot do 2 difficult things at the same time. Not really. Learning a language is a difficult thing. It needs your brain's full attention. And here is what is interesting. You do not need 1 hour of background listening. You need 15 minutes of real, focused attention. And those 15 minutes will do more than 1 hour of background noise. Mia changed one thing. She stopped listening in the background. She started listening with full attention. Just 15 minutes. No phone in her hand, no cooking, no walking, just sitting, just listening, just English. 3 months later, she told me she understood more in those 15 minutes than in all the previous 8 months together. That is the power of focused attention. Now, before I give you the techniques, we need to talk about something very important, the level of your podcast. Because here is something most people do not know. The wrong level is worse than no podcast. If the podcast is too easy, your brain is comfortable. Comfortable feels good, but comfortable is not learning. Your brain needs a small challenge to grow. If everything is easy, nothing is happening inside your brain. Nothing new is being built. If the podcast is too difficult, your brain gets tired. You miss too much. You cannot find the meaning. And after a few minutes, your brain gives up. It stops trying, and you hear sounds, but you understand nothing. So where is the right place? The right place is this. You understand about 70 to 80%. You can follow the story. You understand the main ideas. But there are small things you do not understand. Small gaps. Words you do not know. Phrases that are new. Those gaps, those small things you do not understand, that is where learning happens. Not in the parts you already know. Not in the parts you cannot understand at all. In the parts that are just a little bit above you, just a little bit out of reach. This is called comprehensible input. A language researcher named Stephen Krashen studied this for many years, and he found that we learn language when we understand most of what we hear, but not all of it. The small unknown parts, in context, surrounded by known language, that is where new language enters our brain. So right now, a quick test. Are you understanding this episode? Not every word, but the main ideas, the stories, most of it? If yes, you are in the right place. Good. Stay here. If this is too difficult, that is okay. Come back to this episode. It is made for your level. It will wait for you. Now let me give you the techniques, 4 techniques, and I want you to really listen to these, because they are not the advice you usually hear. They are deeper. They come from how language actually enters the brain. The first technique is called listen for chunks, not words. Here is a mistake that almost all learners make. They try to understand every word. They hear a sentence and they try to catch each word one by one, like catching fish one by one with their hands. But native speakers do not speak in separate words. They speak in chunks, groups of words that travel together, sounds that connect and merge and sometimes disappear. For example, a native speaker does not say, "I am going to the shop." They say, "I'm going to go to the shop," or even, "gonna grab something from the store." If you are listening for the word going, you will miss it completely because the word going is not there. The chunk gonna is there, and that chunk sounds completely different. So instead of listening for words, listen for meaning. Listen for the idea. Let the words blur together. Trust your brain to find the meaning in the stream of sounds. Your brain is very good at this. It does this in your own language every day. It just needs time and practice to do it in English. How do you practice this? Listen without stopping. Do not pause to look up words. Do not stop when you miss something. Keep going. Trust the context. Trust the flow. Let your brain work. Only after the episode look up words, then stop and think. But during the listening, flow. Just flow. The second technique is listen to the same episode twice. I know, it sounds boring, but it is one of the most powerful things you can do. And here is why. The first time you listen to something, your brain is working very hard just to understand. It is catching meaning, building the story, following the ideas. It is too busy to notice language. The second time, the meaning is already there. Your brain knows the story. It is relaxed, and now it can notice something completely different. Not what the speaker is saying, but how the speaker is saying it. What words did she choose? What phrase did she use there? Would you have said it differently? How did she connect those two sentences? This noticing. This is how language moves from something you understand to something you can use. Think about music. The first time you hear a song, you hear the melody. You feel the emotion, but you probably cannot sing it yet. The second time, you start to hear the words, the rhythm, the specific sounds. The third time, you start to sing along. Language learning is the same. The first listen is the melody. The second listen is the words. The third time, you can produce it yourself. So after this episode, come back tomorrow. Listen again. And this time, do not listen for meaning. Listen for language. One thing you want to notice. One phrase you want to remember. One moment where you think, how did she say that? The third technique is pause and predict. This one feels simple, but it is not, and it is extremely powerful. Here is what you do. You pause the podcast before a sentence ends, and you try to finish it yourself. Say your answer out loud. Do not think it. Say it with your voice. Then play and hear the real ending. Were you right? Or did something surprise you? That moment of surprise, the gap between what you said and what the speaker said, that is your brain learning. That small shock registers in your memory. It stays. Why does this work? Because your brain does not really learn from input it expects. Your brain learns from the unexpected, from the gap, from the moment it says, oh, that is how you say, I did not know that. When you predict and you are wrong, that is a learning moment. When you predict and you are right, that is confidence. Both are good. Both are learning. And the act of saying your answer out loud, that is very important. Do not just think it, say it. Because the goal of learning English is not to understand English. The goal is to speak English. And your speaking brain and your understanding brain are different muscles. You need to exercise both. So in this technique, every time you pause, you speak. Even if your answer is wrong, even if it is not a complete sentence, even one word, you produce language. You activate your speaking brain. The fourth technique is the most important one, and almost nobody does it. It is called the 2-minute debrief. After the podcast ends, before you close the app, before you open something else, before you move on, stop. 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, and ask yourself 3 questions, out loud. Question 1. What was this episode about? Say the answer in English, 2 sentences. Out loud, do not write it. Say it with your voice. Question 2. What is one phrase I heard that I want to remember? Question 3. How can I use that phrase today? These 3 questions do something very important. They move the language from your passive memory, where you heard it, to your active memory, where you can use it. Here is the science behind this. Your brain has 2 types of memory storage. Passive memory is where you store things you have seen or heard. Active memory is where you store things you can produce, things you can say or write yourself. Most learners only build passive memory. They hear English, they understand English, but they cannot speak it, because they never moved the language to active memory. The 2-minute debrief forces that movement. You take the language you consumed and you produce it. Out loud, immediately after, and your brain marks it. This is important. Keep this, use this. Your brain only keeps what it uses. This is not a metaphor. This is how memory works. If you hear something and never use it, your brain deletes it. In 24 hours, most of it is gone. In 1 week, almost all of it. But if you use something, even once, even in 2 sentences out loud to yourself, your brain keeps it longer. And if you use it again the next day and again 3 days later, it becomes permanent. That is the whole method. Right there. Hear it, notice it, produce it, use it. Let me tell you what Mia did. She stopped the background listening. She started 15 minutes of focused listening every day. She listened to each episode twice. She started doing the 2-minute debrief. And she started stealing 1 phrase from every episode, 1 phrase that was new to her. That sounded natural, that she liked. She wrote it in her phone, just the Notes app, nothing special, and she used it that day, in a message to a friend, in a comment, in a sentence she said to herself in the mirror. 1 phrase, every day. After 30 days, she had 30 phrases. Real, natural, useful phrases. Not from a textbook, from real English, used by real speakers. After 90 days, she had 90 phrases in her active memory. And she told me, "Ellen, I do not know when it happened. But at some point, I stopped translating in my head. I started feeling the language. I started thinking in small pieces of English, and the speaking started coming." That is not magic. That is how language learning works. Small input, active attention, consistent output, and time. Let me give you the short version. 1. Passive listening. In the background while you do other things does not build language. 15 minutes of focused attention is worth more than 1 hour of background noise. 2. Find your level. Understand 70 to 80%. A small stretch, not too easy, not too hard. And let's go over the 4 techniques from today. Listen for chunks, not words. Let the sounds flow. Trust the meaning. Listen twice. First for meaning, second for language. 2 different jobs for your brain. Pause and predict. Finish sentences yourself. Out loud, feel the gap, learn from the surprise. 2-minute debrief, 3 questions, out loud, after every episode, and steal 1 phrase every episode, 1 phrase. Use it 3 times today. After 3 days, it is yours. Here is your challenge. Go back. Listen to this episode again, tomorrow, with the second listen technique. Not for the story, for the language. And then come to the comments and write 1 thing. What is the phrase you are stealing from today? Write it. Use it in a sentence. Right there in the comment. I read every comment, every one, because that comment you write, that is not just a comment. That is the technique working. That is passive becoming active. That is the moment learning happens. See you in the next episode. And until then, do not just listen. Learn. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story. Because the right episode at the right moment can change more than just your English.